Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another video by Cyrus. Today we're going to go and watch the bookish theory explanation video of Haegeum of Sugar. And I have a bad news for you as well. So I reacted to the whole album, but when I uploaded the video, it blocked it. YouTube blocked it only because, you know, the whole album is all together and it's kind of like, you know, not legal to do such thing on YouTube. I don't know. But he blocked it. I have to cut the video down into smaller chunks and then re-upload everything. It's a very good video. I mean, like, I liked it myself, but the problem is that I cannot have it all together in one video. But don't worry about it. I will re-upload it again into smaller chunks and the problem will go away, fortunately. Without further explanation, let's dive in.
Hello and welcome back to Bookish Theories. In today's video,
Her accent is fantastic. I really love it.
On a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the music video to see what they can tell us about the concept and story of this official
Where is she
solo
from?
debut.
Italian?
Haegeum is a song written and composed by Yoongi himself, and its title is a wordplay that actually refers to two different things. On one hand, the Haegeum is a traditional string instrument whose sound can be heard throughout the song itself. On the other, however, Haegeum can also be translated as the lifting of a ban, thus implying that this is a track that uses music to encourage people to free themselves and go against certain rules.
So that's why he has a bag, right, in his hand.
This song is a
Haegeum.
It's a call to lift a band that we as the audience are meant to join, as Augusti introduces us to this new type of rebellion. According to the press release, the song pushes an idea of freedom to people who appear to be free, but are actually bound by suffocating social standards that
it explains why
them.
it was
Much like the album
Joker in there, right?
This is a concept that was inspired by Yoongi's perspective, and more specifically by his life as an idol, as well as his experience with social media. As he explained in the Road to D-Day documentary, for instance, one of the main inspirations behind the song is the restriction.
So there's a documentary. Why didn't you tell me about it?
That idols have to endure for no reason. Even if on a general level idols don't commit any crimes or do anything that controversial, people hold them at such an impossible standard that even the smallest thing can become the biggest scandal. As we see in a second, for instance, the video includes multiple scenes of Augusti smoking cigarettes, and this is one of those actions that are only considered scandalous if it's an idol doing it. If you saw any other adult smoking a cigarette down the street, you probably wouldn't even notice it, but if an adult idol is caught doing it, then people start talking and questioning his character. In a sense,
Jungkook has a photo that, you know, paparazzi got it while he was smoking.
Yoongi decided to include those scenes as some sort of test, because if a 30-year-old smoking a cigarette becomes a controversy, then one has to wonder why we should accept this insane standard to begin with. Following these thoughts, Augusti created Haegeum to start questioning these useless restrictions and lift those bans that exist for no reason. This is a song about freedom of expression. It has the goal to liberate what is forbidden, but make no mistake, the message of Haegeum is not that we are free to do and say whatever we want. As he explains in the song, even interpretation is free, and there is a big difference between freedom and self-indulgence. If your beliefs are reflected in your thoughts and judgment, and you think
this very sentence, can anybody explain it in the comments? So what does it mean? I mean, like, in mind, I mean, of course I have some idea what that means, but I want you to tell me, what do you think? But you must remember to differentiate freedom from self-indulgence.
And self-indulgence. If your beliefs are reflected in your thoughts and judgment, and you think that your freedom is equal to the freedom of others, then this song is for you. You understand that people should be treated equally, and that if you can do certain things, then others can as well. If in contrast you think that your freedom of expression is more important than others, then it becomes self-indulgence, and it can become the cause of someone's...
Actually, bookish theory gave us some explanation, yeah, but let me know, what do you think?
Death. At that point,
I'd like to discuss about this later.
Of expression, because your actions limits the freedom of somebody else. This is a discourse that is painfully relevant when it comes to idols, and in more ways than one, this concept applies to all of us just as well. As he explained in the documentary, Haegeum was also inspired by his experience with social media. In this day and age, we have access to a world of information on the palm of our hands, but oftentimes
this is the documentary, right?
To kind of restrict each other without even realizing it. Yoongi explained that there were times where he felt like his life was kind of limited by events happening on the other side of the world, but then he realized that he didn't have to walk on eggshells that much. People can live like they want, and Haegeum is a song that is meant to remind us of this simple truth. In the second verse, for instance, Auguste criticizes social media and the negative impact it has on our lives. The endless influx of information that we are subjected to prohibits freedom of imagination and seeks conformity of thought. What is criticizing here is the mob mentality that people tend to acquire on social media. When somebody kind of gets engulfed by that tide, one gets blinded by the noise. The mob silences freedom of thought and feeds on unnecessary controversy, but when we are in the middle of it, we don't get it because all that chaos confuses our judgment. We don't understand that we are the ones to blame, that we are the ones restricting ourselves. So without even realizing it, we become slaves to the very system that we criticize. We become slaves to capitalism, to money, to hatred, to prejudice.
The capitalism. I love Italian. Like, I always wanted to learn how to speak Italian, but a lot happened. But I will learn this language. Just look at it. It's musical. It's not capitalism. It's capitalism. Fantastic.
To YouTube, to flexing, and none of us are immune until we actually take a step back. The moment we close our eyes, everything becomes clear. We realize that everyone was blinded by envy and jealousy, and that we were putting shackles on each other for no reason.
I have to start watching Godfather one more time.
Us to follow the Haegeum to escape this flood of information, because by doing so we can learn to differentiate between freedom and self-indulgence. Now in the video, this concept is explored with a cinematic story that heavily parallels the events that took place in the città. If back then Auguste played the double role of the king and the boss confronting each other, this time around Yoongi plays the role of a detective and a thief fighting to the death for supremacy. Now that these two stories have something in common, it's very easy to see, because even at first glance we can notice some callbacks that reference the first video. For one, the jacket of the thief bears the same dragon symbol of the king. His gang is made up of 6 men like the gang of the boss, and 3 out of 4 characters played by Yoongi have a scar on their eye. As he explained himself, the reason behind this scar will be revealed in Amygdala, so we'll talk more about that in that video. But
because it's a trilogy, right? I mean, in this video it says they become something else.
But in the meantime, let's focus more on the story because we have quite a lot to unpack.
Well, it says the reason why there is a scar on the eye will come out in Amygdala. When scars are made by the individuals, honestly, you can avoid the first arrow, but the second arrow, there are people who just let themselves get it. I want to talk a bit about those kind of stories, so I did Amygdala.
Back. You see, despite the shallow references that I just mentioned, Haegeum and the città have a lot more in common than what it seems, to the point that I would even go as far as to say that they're almost the same story but shot in different settings. In the città, for instance, the boss is a man of the people who stands up to a tyrant who beheads anybody who dares to question him. As the boss challenges his power, the king takes him prisoner, but on the night of his execution, the man who was supposed to kill him frees him instead. The executioner was one of the butchers that the boss acknowledged at the very beginning, so it was his ally all along. He betrayed the king for him, and at the end he gives him the gun that the boss finally uses to shoot the tyrant. Now, keep this summary in mind when we break down what happens in Haegeum. At the beginning, the video opens with Auguste as the boss of a gang followed by 6 men. He enters a restaurant that acts as a front of illegal activities, and after stealing a pair of chopsticks, he goes upstairs to confront a rival gang. Now, as we see later on in the video, his goal is to steal these people's money, and in order to accomplish this task, he doesn't hesitate to massacre every man that comes in his way. When the thief stabs the guards with the chopsticks, the 2 gangs start fighting each other as Auguste steals the money. The only survivor of this massacre is this man right here, who in turn calls his boss to tell him what's going on. This is where the antagonist comes into play, which is none other than Auguste the detective. You see, even if he works for the police, he's a corrupt detective who is actually the leader of the gang the other Yoongi just stole from, so as he sends a car on the scene, he sets off on his personal journey to find his nemesis. In the meantime, however, his nemesis is having the time of his life. Back in his hideout, he has a smoke, he does a little dancey dance, plays with his goldfish, and then he even goes out to get some tangerines, which I would argue are an essential detail in Yoongi's lore. When he comes back, however, the detective is there waiting for him. So as
It's
Yoongi
interesting
the
that
thief
they
lays
put
in a
this thing
bathtub
together.
filled with money, Yoongi the cop is pointing a gun at him ready to shoot. This, however, doesn't seem to affect him, so much so that he removes the cigarette from the cop's lips and uses it to set on fire the money that he stole from him. This is proof that Yoongi the thief never really cared about his money, he just wanted to disrespect him, and this is what sends the detective off the edge. After getting waterboarded, the thief is standing in front of the detective about to be executed. Just like in the Città, however, there is a final twist, because the boss takes a gun out of the barrel and shoots the detective, killing him instead. If you look closely, before approaching the body of his enemy, the thief gives the weapon to the man who was about to execute him, and this man happens to be the same guy that called the detective at the very beginning. As Yoongi was leaving the premises, he saw him on the phone. They looked at each other, and he chose to keep him alive despite
same
killing
theory
everybody else.
in
So
Città,
this
it was...
implies that just like in the Città,
Yeah,
all the events were
the
part of an
Città.
intricate plan to kill the corrupted leader. In both cases, the bosses allowed themselves to get captured. Both tyrants thought they won, and as they were about to execute the men who challenged their power,
But why
they were
did they
betrayed by
do
one
the
of
same
their own
thing?
before getting shot by their own enemy. If in the Città we never
It's a
got to see the
trilogy, but it
outcome,
should
however,
continue the
in
story,
Haegeum we
right?
do, because at the end it's implied
By this explanation, feels like they, they did another copy. In the world of cinema, the whole thing revolves around storytelling. So the storytelling, if it captures in the same place, it's okay. But if it's go with the same storytelling, it's a copy of your own previous work. I don't understand this part, to be
the Yoongi
honest.
the thief replaces the detective as the leader of his gang.
I mean, like, if they were shooting another music video in the same location, that was okay, but with different narratives, right? I mean, like all these different series we see in New York, and I don't know, for instance, K-dramas, they're literally in the same location, same setup, but different story. That's why maybe you keep watching them, but different place, same story.
Not only the police car drives him back to the restaurant from the
Now
beginning,
that she's
but the waiter
explaining,
saves him right away like he's the new boss.
I'm saying I don't
thus
get
implying
it.
that the cycle of power and greed eventually continues on. Before ending this video, I would also like to point out that Haegeum can also have a symbolical interpretation that fits the lyrics of the song. As we discussed before, Haegeum is about Yoongi rebelling against the useless restrictions that people give others for no reason other than
different
to
lyrics.
control them. If we
Different
apply this concept to the
lyrics.
characters in our story, the events that take place in the video
Maybe
can
that's
also
a
have a very
different story, huh?
meaning. Let's say, for instance, the Yoongi the thief is the one calling the Haegeum. He wants to rebel, lift the ban, and do whatever he wants without getting judged. As he does so, however, he's also challenging the authority of the detective, who in turn kinda represents the people the Yoongi is criticizing. As an antagonist, the cop is a very hypocritical character if you think about it. He embodies the law, but at the same time he's the most corrupted of them all, because he's also the leader of a gang. Like the people on social media who police idols but do the same stuff they want to cancel them for, the detectives want to punish the thief for things that he's guilty of as well. The thief smokes, but so does the cop. He steals, but so does the cop. He kills, but so does the cop. The only difference here is that the cop has the audacity to go after him for it, which is very similar to those people judging others for anything they do. As Yoongi evokes the Haegeum, he draws first blood by killing with red chopsticks, which in turn is the same tool that he uses to eat right at the end. This symbolically means that the weapon that he uses to kill is the same that he uses to feed himself, which is none other than his music. In real life, Auguste doesn't need violence to prove his point. He uses his craft, and Haegeum is yet another example of him successfully doing so. To see what else D-Day has in store for us, we'll have to
that was a
wait
good
and
concept.
see. But
That was
in
a
the
good
meantime,
concept.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing.
Sure. Why not? We like and we subscribe to the video. That was interesting. I mean, like the very last concept, I loved it. If you have any more idea to add to what we saw here, if you've noticed something that I haven't noticed it, or watch it in this video. Let me know in the comments. I really like to know those things, like little things. And stay tuned for watching Augusti Amygdala explain. I'd like to know what bookish theory has to offer in that realm. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I love you all. It was a fantastic video. I learned something today, and that's the whole concept of doing these videos. Like learning is really important. Take care, guys.